Hello, everyone. It's Jerry at the Fledge, and welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today, I've got my Black Lives Matter shirt on with an American flag on it. I don't know always how to react to Memorial Day. I'm not in favor of all the wars that we have and all the black and brown people that get killed all over the world for oil and things like that. But I am really proud of our veterans and I am really supportive of them. And I wish that sometimes that everybody was, that our country was, that our government was, is what I mean by that. I mean, I think about every 20 minutes, a veteran commits suicide. I think about the homeless veterans. I think about the veterans who are incarcerated or have substance use problems. And I think about how we don't always take care of them the way that we should. So I do want to respect Memorial Day from that perspective, but I have a different perspective too. Memorial Day is about the people who we've lost that we loved. And today, I'm going to interview Daniella. It's going to be super tough for me, but I think once I get rolling, it's going to be okay. And, this is the point where I usually bring people on the air. And right now I'm just going to play her voice because we don't have a lot of recordings of her voice and I want you all to hear it. And the only way I could do it at one point was to call her voicemail that didn't exist anymore.
Hey, Daniella, can I pick up the phone right now? If you leave me a message, I'll give you a call back as soon as I can. Thanks, and have a fantastic day.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished.
And I love hearing her voice. I love everything about her. We're going to look at some images in a little bit, but let's start out the show the way I would start out the show. And that would be, what's up, Daniella? And asking her about what she's been doing today. And it was on a holiday like this. And if it was before she lost her kids, it would be probably something at a beach somewhere. She'd be trying real hard to entertain them and to go out and to do something fun and to live a really good life. So I could imagine her today out in Grand Haven with her 4 children. And I'll name them: Christopher, Alexander, Liliana, and Chloe. They'd be out at the beach and they'd be trying to grill, they'd be swimming, they'd be trying to have the best time ever. And, she'd probably be trying to, be on her phone from Grand Haven and doing this interview. So, what's up, Daniella? I see you at the beach right now. And then I'd ask her to tell us about herself. Like where she was born and raised and where she went to school and how she got to where she was. And Daniella was born in Sparrow Hospital. And Sparrow Hospital is about a block and a half away from where I am right now, very near to the Fledge. And she was born there, and she spent a couple of years with living in Lansing in different houses. Her mother didn't have a lot of money. I did not have a lot of money. We weren't married. She was a child of my senior year in college or in university. And we never got married. We separated and got apart. And, at one point, I started working in Detroit, and Daniella's mother met a man and got married to him, and they moved to Grand Rapids on the north side up by Leonard. And I continued to work in Detroit, and Daniella grew up in Grand Rapids, and I saw her every other weekend. It was my pride and joy to definitely see Daniella as much as I could. And so I'd pick her up and we'd have fun and we'd drive fast and we'd listen to loud music. She loved the Beastie Boys. She loved 50 Cent later on in her life. And I remember those days so vividly, and they were so much fun. And her and I did everything. I mean, she was my life on those times that I got to get her. And we did a lot. We played around with music. We played around with art. I remember Shannon telling me once about when she first met Daniella and I. Just thinking about Daniella just making a mess on our wood floors in Grand Rapids after I finally moved there, and doing art, and me just wanting her to be happy and to do her art and to write her poems and to do all of that. And, you know, we got closer and closer, and, you know, eventually she had trouble at home and her mother kicked her out, and it was a dream come true for us, for her to come to Lansing at the time, Grand Ledge, and live with us. And, you know, it was so great that she was going to come live with us. And so, you know, Daniella grew up in Grand Rapids. She went to Walker Charter Academy. I remember that school. She ended up moving to Rockford for a little bit, went to Rockford High School in ninth grade, and then got kicked out of her house and came to Grand Ledge with us, and ended up going to Grand Ledge High School. And, you know, we thought everything was going to be great, but it wasn't. One of the first things that happened and at Grand Ledge was that she got caught with cigarettes. She was issued a ticket by the cop who was in the school. The cop who was in the school, and wrote her a minor in possession ticket that gave her what's called an MIP. So she had to have a probation. You know, this is all, you know, these things that are supposed to be good for our school systems, where we're introducing our kids to the judicial system. The school to prison pipeline is what it's called. And she had this MIP, and the MIP came with a drug test. And so she failed the drug test, which was for marijuana. So once she did that, that extended everything and made her have to do more requirements that involve things like AA meetings and, you know, dropping and testing and having to go to counseling for different substance use problems. And when she got in the meetings, the other kids said, "Oh, you're doing it wrong. Don't smoke marijuana. That stays in your system for 30 days. What you really should be doing is something like Xanax or something like Vicodin, because that'll get out of your system faster." So they test us once a week. Once they test you, take some pills, get high, do whatever. And this is the thing that she learned in the group meeting. So she went from cigarettes and marijuana eventually to starting to take pills, which then led to Oxycontin. Now, I don't know what would have happened if she wouldn't have gotten the MIP, if she wouldn't have been drug tested, if she wouldn't have ended up in an AA meeting or NA meeting, and if she wouldn't have met these kids that told her this. But once she did that, she switched from something that seemed more innocent to me to something that became super vicious and super difficult to deal with. And that was all of the uppers and the Oxycontin and the things that, were readily available in the Grand Ledge High School. And I would bet they're readily available today. And the cop doesn't do anything about it except for, oh, I found these cigarettes and here's this MIP. I'm not happy, obviously, about this. I find it disgusting. And, as she kept going and kept getting in more and more trouble, eventually she stopped going to that school and is in all of these programs. She's locked up from time to time. We've got to go to Eaton County's juvenile detention center to visit her. We're trying everything that everybody is telling us to do. And back then, it was still say no to drugs. And, I got to say fuck you to a couple of people. Fuck Nancy Reagan for that. I'm sure she had some good intention or whatever, but the whole war on drugs was really a war on us. And Ronald Reagan knows that. Richard Nixon knew that. Lyndon Johnson knew that. This was a war on black, brown, and poor people. It was a war on us. It was never a war on drugs. It was an extension of Jim Crow that cast a very wide net. And that disgusts me. It disgusts me that we have police officers in our schools. It disgusts me that drug addiction, substance use disorder is treated as a crime still today. And I know, there's judges and prosecutors that feel all good about themselves about how, they're decriminalizing it or treating it more like this and allowing this and that. Get it in the healthcare system. There shouldn't be a judge or a prosecutor or a police officer involved. This is a health issue. Fuck the Sacklers. Fuck Purdue Pharmacy. Fuck every doctor. Dr. Linville and DeWitt. Fuck you, man. You used to write me Vicodin for a physical when I came into it. All you guys getting rich over distributing these addictive drugs. Fuck all you guys. Fuck heroin. Fuck your local heroin dealer. I'm going to continue to be that or to talk about that. These doctors, man, they're horrible. They're super, super horrible. And it goes all the way up the line. You greedy bastards. Fuck all of them. That's right, Jeremy Hurt. So we keep going, right? And Daniella gets married, right? I think I sort of want to show some photos real quick, if you guys don't mind. Give me 1 second here to kind of sort this out. Bear with me. I'm not going to be the best person talking today. So hopefully you see this photo of her. Is that true? Is that what we see? Yeah. This is Daniella when she was a baby. I call her, oops, I got it now. This is Daniella when she was a baby. And, this photo right here is the number one reason I called her Sunshine. She was so beautiful. Can you see her now, Amy? Someone shout out to me if you can see Daniella's photo on my screen now. Yeah. She wasn't born addicted to drugs. One of her children were. Maybe two of her children were. But she wasn't. She wasn't, meant to be this. This wasn't her destiny. It wasn't her dream. It's what all of us did together, And I'm not saying I'll tell you about the time I tried to take an extreme ownership or responsibility for this. I'll tell you what the police did to me. But, we're surrounded by people that use in this neighborhood on the east side. And, if it's a young woman, it triggers me so bad. It motivates Shannon so much because she sees this child in all of these users. Shannon's amazing, and she wasn't a substance use disorder. She wasn't an addict. I'm going to say addict from now on. Sorry if the stigma bothers some of you, but it's the best I can do right now. She wasn't an addict. She was beautiful. She was my best friend back then. And this is the photo that made me think of the photos. She married somebody. She married the father of her first child, Christopher, who we have the pleasure of being with this weekend. And Christopher's 14 now and 13, 14. I get mixed up. He looks so old. He's been away to school for a while. And, this is Daniella's wedding day. And it looks perfect and it looks beautiful. And unfortunately, she's marrying the drug dealer that she met in high school, who wasn't even in high school. But, the cop was protecting us, right? But he wasn't. She wasn't. Whoever it was. They weren't protecting anybody. She was buying some pretty hard drugs at Grand Ledge High School, where we moved to try to help be in a safer space. Man, were we wrong. It was such a dangerous spot. And, she was beautiful. She was so, so beautiful. And such my sunshine. And yeah, that's where she was born and raised. And that's kind of what she went through. And she spent about 12 years addicted to heroin, addicted to opioids. And on this next photo, I have a worse photo, but here's a photo of me touching her for one of the last times and looking at her tattoo. Daniella Pride Morris, DPM. And she was on life support at that time. And it was from, I don't know, probably at this time, it was about 24 hours before that she stopped at Quality Dairy on Saginaw and went into the bathroom and smashed up a fentanyl pill and snorted it and overdosed and did not breathe for about 20 minutes before her dumbass friends, sorry guys, but you were being dumbasses at this point for sure. Her dumbass friends didn't check on her, the clerk didn't check on her, and nobody had Narcan. And I'm disappointed in you, Quality Dairy, because my daughter died in your bathroom and you still don't have Narcan, you still don't have training, and you still have public bathrooms available to people. Shame on you. And shame on any of you that don't have something to help the people that live in our community, the people who are sons and daughters and mothers and cousins and brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces, the people who were the babies that make their fathers call them sunshine, that didn't deserve to end up where they are. It's my last photo of her. And sometimes you'll see around my wrist a heartbeat. And that's the heartbeat that the machine was given off on the day that we had to decide that yes, she was indeed dead, that yes, she was indeed not going to recover, and that yes, indeed, we did need to, what I think is brashly called, pull the plug. And that was on Father's Day about 4 years ago, so in 2017. I can't remember the date anymore because it's burned in my head that it was Father's Day. So now it'll just always be Father's Day. And as sad as that sounds, it's also comforting to me. It's comforting me that I was with her, that maybe her hurt was going to end, that maybe we could find a silver lining in this. And I don't know. It's all tough and it's all rough and I don't know. But, you know, as a parent, I never expected this. I thought it was going in a completely different direction. I thought I was going to have a daughter who was, I thought this daughter, because I also have another daughter who is amazing, but I thought this daughter was going to be an artist and a poet and a philosopher and a strategist and a mathematician and a scientist. And I thought she was going to be anything but a drug addict. But then one day she was a drug addict. And, you know, I thought I was going to be a good father, but I didn't know what to do. So I listened. I listened to the worst advice ever. Tough love. You got to set your boundaries. You've got to hold her accountable. You've got to. I kicked her out of the house once. It was the biggest regret of my life because she went right to the drug dealer. And, you know, people do drugs to feel better. It's as simple as that. And once they do that, and once their brain starts firing dopamines and, you know, everything that goes with it, with the drugs, the brain takes over and the drug becomes like oxygen. And, you know, I feel like doing a dissertation on addiction right now, but, you know, everything you learned a long time ago about addiction is wrong. Harm reduction is the best way to go. Keeping people alive day by day is the best way to go. And Daniella, she taught me that. Not all the people around here telling us all this bullshit. You know, I appreciate people, you know, wanting abstinence. I want it too. You know, I would have died for it, to give her abstinence, but it's such a false promise. Tough love is such the worst thing to do. And to be naive about it, that it only happens to those people, you know, all you old white men and all you old white ladies, you need to wake up. You know, you stigmatize this and you think you're better than everybody. And I guarantee you, there's somebody in your family, somebody in your group of friends that is struggling with this right now. Too many people die of addiction. It is a national it's a worldwide, but mostly in the US because we let our big pharma control us. It's a health crisis, and we need to look at it that way. I'm going to say that too many times, probably. You know, I keep going though. And, I think about, Daniella died 4 years ago. And, I'd be asking the question, what are your projects right now? And I think, I can answer for her. Her projects are about Shannon and I, and Raven and Rain and I, and Margot and I raising the kids, or helping to raise the kids, or to be an influence on the kids, because they've been adopted by my aunt and uncle, Chuck and Sue Norris, and we really appreciate everything that they've given to them and done for them. So that is one thing. The kids are safe, and they're being educated, and they're being protected, and they're given everything that they need. And for that, we feel so good about that. But we also want to make sure that, we have an influence there, that we're there for them. And I think, between everybody I named, for the rest of our lives, we will be there for them. They are our everythings. So again, Christopher and Alexander and Liliana and Chloe will always be there for you. A huge family, a huge tribe that will always be there for you. But what's the work that Daniella does? We have Narcan here. We do harm reduction. We have a needle exchange. We have NA meetings and refuge recovery meetings. We administered Narcan a month or so ago to save the life of a guy across the street that I think most people would look at as, get that homeless guy out of our neighborhood, get that drug addict out of our neighborhood. But he's our neighbor. It's the hand we're dealt. Somebody loves that man. He's somebody's son. He might be somebody's father. He might be somebody's brother. But he's somebody's something. And he deserves, 20 more minutes. Deserves an ambulance. Deserves the help. On Thursday of this week, we have the mobile recovery clinic from Clarkston coming to the Fledge for a couple of hours. And that's the projects that Daniella works on. Those are the things that she does, that she motivates. Sorry. I see you too, Alyssa. Keep going, man. Keep going. And what would she do every damn day? What would her mission be? I think her mission at some point started trying to turn to helping addiction, but her mission was also to try to keep her kids. And it seems super complicated if you were a witness to this. I mean, the court was a mess. The court was right at some level, maybe not at a permanent taken away, but oh man, it was a mess. And her mission would have been to do anything for her kids. So what would she have done every damn day? I think she would try to make it through the day without using. And that's a super big struggle, guys. It's not easy. It's not zap and you're done. And no matter what the motivation might have been, your brain takes over and your brain gets addicted and your brain tells you to do things that don't make sense to anybody else. And within that brain and within that mindset, she would have done her best to take care of the kids. She would have done her best to smile for me. She would have done her best to protect Raven and to protect Rain. And I think she did that every damn day. She did her best. So then we ask, we daisy chain the shows together, and the person from yesterday was Cassandra and Christopher, and their question is, and it's random, they don't know who the guest is going to be, is what's your legacy going to be? And I think, if that gets measured at the time that you die, then her legacy is her 4 children. They are rock stars. They are superstars. They are badasses. They are smart. They are thriving. They are going to be prosperous and happy. And, she brought them into the world, and they will always be Daniella's kids. And that's her legacy at the time that she died. But I think that her story, my feelings inside, the impact that she's had on, Shannon and Raven and Rain and I, Margot and Monty, my parents, Joanna, my sister Marnie, my brother Tom. She taught us all a lesson. And her legacy might be that she plays a role in flipping this and making the stigma go away and helping us realize that, this is a health problem. It's not a criminal problem. This is a war on us. It's not a war on drugs. These people know better. Maybe they don't know science. Maybe we saw that in the last few years. But if you take a scientific approach, it's a much different problem than what our government presents to us. Tomorrow on the show, we have Megan, and she does something called Break the Chains. And, if Daniella were here, she loved music. She loved it so, so much. I mean, she could get lost in music so quickly, and it could change her from one thing to another like that. And, maybe sometimes that was triggering and it was bad, but most of the time it was to lift her up. And I think she would ask Megan, what song could change a bad day into a good day? And I hope Megan likes that and has a good song for that. And, I had to call home and get help with that question. And Raven said that, BDE by Mac Miller, The Best Day Ever. And yeah, that was a song that meant a lot to Daniella. I think Shannon, remembers a lot of 50 Cent and Nelly, where I just think that, that song, It's Getting Hot in Here. Daniella loved that song. And anything by Nelly, she loved. And maybe for me, anytime she heard the Beastie Boys, because we listened to that album driving back and forth from Detroit to Grand Rapids all of the time, she'd always message me or text me or send me a link to a Beastie Boys song. And, I don't know, girls, we like that song a lot for some silly reason. And I can still feel those days. So I think any of those musicians, any of those songs, anything uplifting, I think she'd like J. Cole right now a bit because of some of his messages. DMX, she loved DMX, and I don't know, when he passed away, when he died of an overdose, and when he was on life support, it brought me back to the day when Daniella was on life support. And I just feel, I know he's famous and rich and all these things, but he wasn't always that big. He was also a son and maybe a father, I don't know, a brother, a sister, a nephew. All of these people are, and they all deserve a chance. In my next part, I always ask about happiness and sadness and joy and hope. And for people to pick one of those and go with it. But I don't know, maybe I'll start with hope, but I can't not talk about sadness. I think, Daniella always hoped that she wouldn't use anymore. She always hoped that she could get her kids back. She always hoped that she would be a writer or an artist. She always hoped that, she would graduate from college. She was on a path to do that. She always hoped that she could repair the relationships that she had broken down. She always hoped that one of the men in her life wouldn't take her down a route that, she went down. She had children from 2 men. One of the men are dead. Not of an overdose, supposedly, but who knows? And, I don't forgive you, men. I don't forgive you at all. I've not seen you change. Christopher Morris, Jake, whatever the hell your last name is. I don't forgive you guys. I don't forgive. Shit, I can't even remember your name right now. The guy that was with her the night of. I don't forgive any of you guys. Because you haven't changed yet. Change. Come see me. Let's get some work done. Then I'll start to forgive you. So hope, she had hope until she didn't. I think about her, I use this phrase kind of flippantly, that hope is the last to die. And I think about her that night. And overdoses are complicated. It was an overdose if she didn't know what she was doing. But what was it if she did know what she was doing? And at some point, I think she just lost hope. Taking someone's kids away from them is a death sentence. Taking somebody who is, I'll say, mentally ill as opposed to addiction, the kids away from them, without hope for a cure, without hope for a change, without hope. It's called permanent, and it takes the hope away. And when the hope's dead, then what? What do you have to lose now? Happiness, it's a super complicated thing. The whole word has meaning to so many people in so many different ways. And then we think about the happiest people we know, they commit suicide. They're the most depressed. They're the ones that you never would have thought. So I never knew how much of her happiness was real and how much of it was not. But there were days and she was surrounded by her kids, my grandkids, where she was definitely happy. But with that happiness comes the sadness, and with the sadness comes the happiness. So the days she didn't have the kids were miserable, and you could feel it. You could feel the despair. And then she'd have the kids, and it was happiness again. And she would do anything and everything for the kids. And that means anything and everything. And when you're a drug addict, you will do anything and everything for the drugs. You would also do that for your kids, or she would. And the joy I saw in her face were at the birthday party she was putting together, the prepping for it, the being ready for it. And I also saw joy in her loving herself. And I don't mean that completely vain, but we'll all smile when we know how many selfies she took and how cute she was and how cute she knew she was. So there was a lot of joy and there was a lot of happiness, but never without the sadness and never without the degradation of the hope, until it degraded to zero and until all of this kind of happened. So I wish I could thank Daniella. I wish I could tell her how very special and meaningful and loving and all of these things you want to tell somebody who's gone. But I also think she knew we loved her a lot. And I did my best, and Shannon did her best, and Raven and Rain did their best. And we tried to be that village, and we tried to help her out. And we were lost, and we were young at this. We were inexperienced at this. And, I think all I could say to Daniella right now is I love you, and thank you for everything. Thank you for being you, and thank you for all of the happiness and all of the sadness and all of the joy and all of the hope. And if I ask Daniella to take us out with something right now, I think that what she would want me to say is that, do your best and live your life and think about your kids and just try to maybe not use or space it out. I think she would tell the users to, try to get motivated, but it's going to be tough and it's going to be hard and you're going to slip up, but that doesn't mean that you completely failed. You can succeed or learn. And I think she would tell me that she needed me more. That when I kicked her out of the house, it was devastating. And it was probably the worst thing I could have done and the hardest thing she could have told me not to do. And that, don't forget that she is my sunshine, that she is who I loved and adored more than anybody for so, so long. And that she was unhealthy and she had a mental illness, and she needed me more than anything. And to take me away was one of the worst things I could do. And to take her kids away was the very worst thing that we could have done. So she would ask you all to have that ugly grace, to give that dollar out on the corner, to forgive that drug addict who stole from you, to not be afraid, to give a hug and to give some love, and to remember that these are the cards we're dealt. These are the people we love. And this is why we're here. Thank you, everyone. We love you all. Daniella would love you all.